In this video, we're going to talk about the ideas of making this project, this version 7 EGP file. And the core is to make this project XML file. So I'm just going to go into this, and so I'm going to open up this project XML file. This is for the version 7 file. Then I'm going to go through it a little bit. So the idea is that you see that so for a EGP file, so it should have the same structure as what we have here, which means that it should have a and then sister tag, which is called a project collection. Okay, so inside, and then it's going to have an element, right? So then an application, override, whatever, all of these, none of them should be missing. And then it's going to go into this external file list, all right? So, and then it's going to go to this information, whatever, and then the elements, and then the container, okay, whatever. So this illustrated that if we have a skeleton, which is an empty file, but follows the same structure of that, so then we can, we can always start from that structure file, and we call that a prototype file. Okay. All right. So that is, so if we start from a prototype file of this project, then we can have an empty EGP file without any settings, without no tasks, no nodes, or no shortcuts, whatever. But it should be a legitimate EGP 7 file. So that's the basic idea, all right? But now, so based on this this blank or empty EGP file, so what if I want to add a process flow? So remember that, so the first thing we're going to add is a process flow, right? And then we can have it, so the programs are encompassed within this process flow. Okay, so how to add the process flow? So actually, so to add the process flow, we have to define it in this element. So we're going to define an element which is called process flow, or PFD. But that is not the only thing. So in two different meanings. The first is that for this this process flow, we're going to define the whole component, including its properties, whatever. So it is not only defined one tag, but a collection of tags. This is one. So the other is that we should add more, because we're not only telling SAS about that we now have a process flow component. We're also going to tell SAS how how to display it. So this comes to the view that we have to define that process flow in this project tree view so that it can be displayed here, and also we have to define it in this process flow view so that it can be displayed here in this part. Okay, and these two are connected. So for example, if you make if you make the tree view right, but you didn't make the flow view right, then it might end up that it is not gonna show up in neither of these windows. Okay, so everything has to be configured and configured correctly at the same time. Okay, so these are the basic context of the basic concept behind that. All right, so now going into this project, because I did a lot of analysis and research on it. So this folder contains the historical trials I've did. So I have, for example, I have different examples, like what if it has two process flow, but only no programs, one program, one log, two programs, whatever. So I have a different patterns up until to the last point is that I have multiple process flow, multiple task components, whatever. Okay, so these exercises help me to identify. So in this project.xml, in each different text, what are the subtext I need to add and configure, and how that is different between this version 8 and version 7 files. So I figured it out, right? So now, so it ended up that I have a package of this structure files, which I call the prototype files. So each of them indicates a unique structure for a component or a part of the file that will be needed to define like a task component or a link or whatever for this version 7 file. So I'm just briefly go through that. So this one is for the whole project, and then these two are for process flow. So there is no 02 because 02 is a common prototype file that I put in later because some of the components like task and so a lot of things. So for example, they're gonna share the same structure for this task graphic, which are the icons to be displayed here, right? So then for this common prototype files, I'm gonna put it here. So anyway, so it is gonna have all these files. So now the idea is that because I've listed all of that, then every time I want to add a task, for example, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go back and first I'm going to read the structure or the basic XML from this prototype file. Okay, then so remember that because it is in the conversion, we're going to read data from the version 8 file. All right, so remember that for this EGP version 8, it also has a project XML in which we can get a setting. For example, what is the label, the type, ID created, the person who created it. So these are the names that we can have. These are the settings we can have from this version 8 file. All right, so we're going to remember this, and then we're going to apply that to the prototype that the XML that we have read from this prototypes. Okay, then we're gonna configure for example the labels, IDs, whatever, using the data we have from that version 8 file. All right, so when that part is done, then we can so with this configured or customized a file, we can inject it into this empty XML, and then we can assemble all of them together, and that will be the EGP version 7 file. All right, so that part is for the project XML file. All right, so now, so I have the two photo views for the within that each the EGP file as a zip, for this version 8 file and version 7 file, and we can see that apart from this project.xml that we can get the data from this version 8 file and reconfigure and write into this project XML file in version 7, following the rule required by this version 7. But apart from that, we can also copy, for example, the code from this folder within this version 8 file, and we can copy that into exactly the same, copy that into the version 7 EGP file with exactly the same folder name and the file names and the same concept, the same contents within this code. All right. So this is how we're gonna make the conversions eventually. So we're gonna have the converted project XML file. We're also gonna have this converted folders with SAS code and whatever the contents that we want to keep. Okay, so that will be the basics behind the ideas of how to make the conversion. All right, so now with that, it is good enough that we're going to go into this tree view to illustrate how the program. Remember that we've said that there is a program, a main program here, which is in this local backend app, and it is this file. So we're just going to run this file to make this conversion, and for the next video we're going to use the D3 tree view to illustrate how the program runs.